With ever-increasing digitization of society, it is important that people retain their freedom even on the computing devices they use. Consider all the important things you do in your life that depend on computers. Computers of any kind, whether it's a desktop computer or a laptop or a smartphone or any other kind of a computing device. Many things in people's lives depend on computers, and there's a lot of importance to these devices. So, because computers are today such an integral part of people's lives, it is important that we do not lose our freedom whilst using these devices. Unfortunately, these devices can be used to take freedom away from the people who use them, and that seems to be the tendency, the default behavior of many of these creators of these devices and software that runs on them. Most of the software people generally run is proprietary. It is software that does not respect the user's freedom. It comes with a license, a software license that denies the user their freedom. How is this important? It is important because you lose control over your computing, and since we have established that a computer is an integral part of people's lives, if you lose control over your computing, you lose control over that part of your life, and that is unacceptable. Software that runs on computers is a lot like physical tools. If you use a hammer to hit nails, you are in control of that hammer, and no one else can control what you are doing with the hammer. You can do with the hammer whatever work, however you choose to do that, without being controlled by someone else. You have full control over the use of that hammer. Just like how everyone should have the freedom to control their hammer, how they use it to do their work, people should have the freedom to control their computing as they want. Computer software has something that is called the source code. The source code is the form in which the software is created. It is also the preferred form for modification. If you do not have the source code, it is nearly impossible to make the software do what you want it to do. It can be done, but it requires years of effort for a program of reasonable size. It is not something that a person can reasonably do. So the source code is a must if you want to be in control over your computing. But also, merely having the source code is not enough. You actually need to have the right to do whatever you want with it. You see, there is a problem with the way computer software is distributed. Copyright gives the authors of computer software, or rather the copyright holders of that software, the right to arbitrarily dictate any rules on how the software and the source code can be used. I believe that these people, the copyright holders, are in no position ethically to demand such things that proprietary licenses demand from the user. The proprietor of a piece of software has no right, no ethical right. They may have a legal right, but not an ethical one, to deny the freedom from the users of computer software. Software that comes with the source code and the right for the user to use it as they see fit is called free software, free as in freedom. It is also called Libre software, borrowing the word from Spanish or French. Free software allows the users access to the source code and also the rights to use it however they see fit. Now you have control over your computing, provided that you are a programmer. But what if you are not a programmer? What if you do something else and you are not interested in programming? You don't know how to program software. Having the right to do whatever you want with the source code isn't enough. What you also need is collective control. Collective control means that you, together with a community, can control the software. Since if you are not a programmer, you can ask your community for help in changing that software to fit your needs. Whatever the means you use to acquire the cooperation from your community members, as in, for example, paying them money or just being good friends with them and they want to help you just out of goodwill, that's not important. The important part is that you have the community to help you in changing that software. So Not being a programmer is not a problem. Being a programmer may be useful if you want to personally change the software, but in case you are not a programmer, you can have your community change the software for you. To have collective control, this also requires that the software respects your freedom to share copies of the software, including the source code, both in modified and unmodified forms. You specifically here refers to everyone. Every user of the software must have the right to also share the copies to everyone else, both in modified and unmodified forms. This allows collective control, because now the programmers in the community, they can share their modifications they have made with you if you are not a programmer yourself. So, if you are not a programmer and you want the software to be changed in a certain way, you can ask those members of the community, whatever community that may be, to make those changes that you want. And now they can exercise the right to share the copies to you, the modified copies, and now you benefit from those changes. This way, everyone has control over their computing. The specific rights required for a software to be considered free, Libre, freedom-respecting, are the 4 freedoms starting from 0. The freedom 0 states that the user is allowed to use the software for whatever purpose they want, however they see fit. The freedom number 1 gives the user the right to study and modify the source code, to change the software to do their computing as they wish, to make the modifications to the software that they want. Then the freedom number 2 gives the user the right to share unmodified, exact original copies to anyone else they want to share the copies to. Then freedom 3 gives the user the freedom to share modified versions of the software to anyone they want to. And those are the 4 freedoms. Freedoms 2 and 3 specifically are the freedoms that enable the collective control that I talked about. Software that gives the user these 4 freedoms meets the definition for being free software, Libre software. All software ought to be Libre software, because all software should respect the user's freedom. Not giving the user the freedom to do their computing as they wish is evil, because the copyright holder of the software has no right to deny the freedom from the users of software. I encourage you to avoid running proprietary software, because the proprietor of the software feels the temptation and most often gives in to the temptation of exercising this power over you that they possess to do all kinds of evil things, such as spyware and digital restrictions management. But the specific evil things that the proprietor may do are not important. The important thing is the issue of freedom, the fact that people deserve freedom in their computing, and proprietary software denies the user's freedom. You do not control your life in the digital world if you do not have control over the software that you run. Proprietary software denies you the control. It denies you your freedom. Freedom is important and it is worth fighting for. To avoid running proprietary software, you should install a freedom-respecting operating system, such as the GNU+Linux distributions. You should start by finding a good beginner-friendly distribution of the GNU+Linux operating system. I have a separate speech recommending 3 beginner-friendly distributions. You can go listen to that after this one. And that is it for this speech. Thanks for listening. Until next time, bye.